The hit show, The Bible, that had 15 million viewers on average per show. That's about 4 or 5 times record cable viewers for other top shows. I mean, I've been in top shows on channels that have 2 million viewers per show, like Ventura's Conspiracy Theory. And I've been on Discovery Channel shows that had 3 million that they called hit shows. This show had 15 million on average, sometimes as many as 18 million. They're now removing the devil figure that I'd say looks 80% like Obama. Think about that. All because in casting, the devil looked a little bit like Obama, and you can't have a dark-skinned devil. And so it's been removed from the next set of the series that's coming out. Meanwhile, WorldNet Daily got notice from Google they're not going to let them carry their ads anymore because they ran the headline, Black Mobs Continuing to Attack Whites, which is what's happening all over the country. It's just a fact. Google accuses WorldNet Daily of hate speech. Yeah, Google banned us on a Google store we tried to open 4 years ago from selling the Obama deception. And iTunes also refused the Obama deception twice, saying that it was culturally inappropriate. Inappropriate. This is the tyranny that we're dealing with. But if you want to build abortion clinics on the corner of every black neighborhood and openly in their own documents say it's to exterminate blacks, that's fine. You know, just wiping out the blacks, period, is a good thing. But if you report on the racial animus being pushed by the Democratic Party, creating a climate where attacking white people is fashionable, not just by blacks, but by Hispanics, you name it. I mean, it is epidemic in Austin. Epidemic. And the police see nothing, hear nothing. It's like the monkeys that cover their eyes, cover their mouth, cover their ears because of political correctness, but simply amazing. Meanwhile, it's a top story up on Drudge Report. Jersey City tackles snow removal as New Jersey deals with salt shortage. And then buried in the article, Homeland Security is involved with their bureaucracy blocking the salt getting removed. The New Jersey Department of Transportation Commissioner says the salt shortage could force him to close major roadways during storms. Simpson says the U.S. Department of Transportation told him he found 2 barges that could carry a total of 15,000 tons in New Jersey in about 3 weeks. But again, it's Homeland Security bureaucracy. I'm convinced that a waiver a couple of days ago would have had the salt here already. The 1920 Federal Maritime Act requires all ships fly an American flag, and the government has yet to issue a waiver to allow the ships to make the delivery of the salt without it. And that's just an example of the total bureaucracy meant to shut down this economy and this society. Why don't they just have illegal aliens drive the boat, and they'll give them free tuition, free gas. They can even drunk drive the barges if they want. I mean, that's just what this all comes down to. And we've got Phyllis Schlafly coming on to the Eagle Forum, really an icon in the constitutional conservative libertarian movement. They've commissioned big major studies to deal with the real demographic moves to open the borders up completely.
There is a war. It's happening now. It will decide the fate of humanity. The time to choose sides has come. We are the resistance. We are the info war.
Well, where to begin today? Let me just give you some of the main stacks here. Obviously, there is a video up on Infowars.com, and this info came out last year, actually, but is only now getting attention. And a former top admiral, retired admiral, says Obama conspired with America's enemies to kidnap Chris Stevens. And that was a very early on idea of actually people like Dr. Steve Pachinik on the air, was that it was meant to be a fake kidnapping. But there's also a lot of evidence that it was a cover-up for arms transfers and that there was a double cross within that operation. But we're going to play that clip coming up. Also, I told you this a long time ago because it's actually well known in intelligence circles, and I have connections to those. Report, Japan secretly developing nuclear weapons. Tokyo begins arms buildup in response to East Coast China sea tension. Let me give everybody a news flash. Japan's had nuclear weapons for at least 20 years. And so has South Africa. South Africa's had them since the 70s. Bioweapons since the 70s. Israel's had nukes since the 60s. And I just can't believe how naive the public is not knowing this. In fact, the nuclear club states are probably double what they officially say. North Korea's got them. I was told by a high-level special forces commander that they had scans and facts and plans to go into Iran and have to go into mountain redoubts and fight multi-thousand level troops to be able to get in and be able to take out hidden nukes in mountains in Iran. And he wouldn't tell me everything, but he basically said the plan is to nerve gas the hills, and the Iranians know this, so I can say it on air, nerve gas them, and then with high-tech full body suits they've got, and still they leak, send in U.S. Special Forces to try to blow up the nukes, because they don't even have bunker busters that'll go into these hills and knock these out. You know, they had some missions like that in World War II where they'd have guys land 50 miles away and go in by ski. I forget the name of that mission, and they snuck into the underground bases and blew up the V1 base. That's a famous case. I forget the actual name of that operation. The point is, believe me, the NSA is going to be listening to that. If they weren't listening live, they're going to be listening to it later. But that's the kind of issues that are going on, ladies and gentlemen. So I've covered 2 articles now. I said I'd mention headlines and then get back into it. The feds, I don't remember it was Operation Crossbow. We can look it up. It was British Special Forces in one case. It was American British in another. Then they would look at Allied programs to sabotage V1 World War II. There was another one where they blew up the heavy water. They blew up the heavy water reactors underground, but then also a shipment had already left. So they had to time the bomb in the ferry in the bottom where it blew up right in the middle of the lake. They did a great job on that as well. Yeah, Norwegian heavy water sabotage. Yeah, that's one of the reports. I forget the name of that operation. It was a German nuclear energy project. That was Operation Grouse. I forget the one underneath the mountain blowing up the V1 missiles, though. Anyways, with Werner von Braun, barely made it out of that explosion. Come over here and run NASA, along with Goddard and the rest of them. But anyways, continuing with the news, ladies and gentlemen, Jersey City tackles snow removal as New Jersey deals with salt shortage. And they've got plenty of salt, but the feds won't let them have it. Just like they did with Katrina, not letting the thousands of fire departments and police departments from Texas and Louisiana, Arkansas, you name it, ready to come in and restore order instantly, like the lawless New Orleans police, and told to stand down. And then when the county police tried to restore power and stuff, the feds cut the power lines. And we've played the clip of the sheriff talking about it. While he waited and followed orders of the feds for 4 days, while his mother's cell phone still worked, and she would call him and he'd say, I'm coming today, I'm coming tomorrow, Mama. And finally he got there and his mother was dead. Imagine you're the sheriff and your mother's dying with 3 feet of water up to her bed in a hospital in downtown New Orleans, and you follow the feds' orders and don't go get her out. When there were high and dry highways right to the hospital. They just wouldn't let people walk out on those as well. That is what you get from this federal government. That is what let me just give everybody a little news flash here, and I'm no hero. And my mother is in a hospital, and they're blocking the police and others from going in and the Coast Guard from delivering diesel fuel for generators and everything so FEMA can run everything and have a bigger disaster and say they need more funds later. I'm going in to get my mother, and you better not get in my way. And, of course, in the past, no one would act like this because everybody would go in and get their mother. Nowadays, police chiefs and people will sit there while their mother dies to follow orders of a criminal rogue government. Don't ever forget that, folks. That lets you know what we're dealing with in this society. Here's a really big stack of news that we're going to get to after I first cover the new Benghazi developments. Rockefeller Brothers, Pepsi, behind gun grab agenda. Now, I already knew this, and you already knew this, but this is the kind of articles we need to see, and I appreciate Kurt Nimmo doing this. If you go look who funds anti-private property movements for the general public, if you try to look at who finances higher taxes on the middle class and poor, if you look at who finances victim disarmament, anti-gun movements, if you look at who finances globalism and the end of sovereignty, if you look at who finances derivatives and the promotion of them, it is always literally Fortune 20 or so. And always at the top is Carnegie Endowment, Rockefeller Brothers, Bill and Melinda Gates, Warren Buffett, of course, the usual suspect, George Soros, and Exxon and Mobil and Google and the Carnegie Endowment. I think I already mentioned them. And here it is, Rockefeller Brothers Foundation. That's their biggest one. Pepsi behind gun grab agenda. And it's got the Aspen Institute, top globalist think tank, with all them up there pushing the disarmament of the American people. I mean, this is foreign multinationals. Pepsi's a big part of Bilderberg. They actually finance it. These are people with armed guards, helicopters, men with machine guns guarding them. They all own guns on record. In fact, in one of the articles, it actually shows the lady who's anti-gun, firing an AK-47. In fact, a lot of times they're obsessed with guns. They just don't want you to have them. That's the instinct of a crook, an instinct of a disgusting control freak. And then confirming what the mayor already set up in upstate New York. And now over 50 mayors have quit, the mayors for enslaving the American people. I mean, mayors against illegal guns. Bloomberg's organization, his cartel, his syndicate, his racketeering organization, that's what it is, trying to violate my civil rights on record in an organized, deceptive manner. The plan is to ban our guns. Well, now a New York assemblyman in the State House has been in the meetings and said, SAFE Act, Democrats wanted to confiscate guns. Yeah. I mean, they've already said that. I mean, Bloomberg's been honest about that before, but they go on the news and go, nobody wants your guns. Everywhere we get control, we take them all, but just let us register them and we'll just shut down any private sales. Just like out of The Road Warrior, where Humongous is saying, just give us the gas, we spare your lives. Hey, we got to work with Humongous. He's really nice. I'm going out there to be friends with him. You go out and you get killed or tortured and strapped to the front of a Trans Am. I mean, it's just, you people need to stop being so naive, okay? These are not well-meaning liberals. These are hardcore wolves run by offshore mega banks that run the major militaries of the world, who literally run the health departments and jack your food and water with poison on record. On record in Ecoscience and many other publications written by them. And they think you're stupid because this is all public and you don't care. They say you deserve it. I don't deserve it. You understand that, Holdren? I don't deserve it, Soros, and you don't have a right to do it to me, scum. And universal law says I have a right to fight you. And I'm fighting you with the information war because it's the most effective. We're identifying you scurvy rats, you scallywag, traitorous, instinct of evil, degenerate scum. And you will, you know what Johnny Cash says, you can run on for a long time. You can run on for a long time. Sooner or later, God's going to cut you down. You can hide your hand working in the dark against your fellow man. But you know whatever you do in the dark will be brought to light. So that's in that stack of news. So I've covered two of the small stacks. Let's continue attempting here to get into this. Hillary goes mum on NSA, skirts surveillance fight. Iran seeks new Russian reactor in exchange for oil. We've got a huge article here that's really important, exclusive. National clown shortage may be approaching, trade organization fears. That's the New York Daily News. People don't like clowns. So, continuing here, Venezuelan president calls, speaking of clowns, allies to rival opposition protest.
The globalist social engineers are not just targeting us with propaganda. They are manipulating our genetics. We are being targeted at every level by estrogen mimickers that lower our testosterone and other hormones and natural compounds that the body needs. After consulting top doctors, nutritionists, pharmacists, and others, we have developed what I believe is the ultimate non-GMO organic super male vitality formula sourced from powerful organic herbs and then concentrated for maximum potency. Super male vitality was developed to activate your body's own natural processes instead of using synthetic chemicals. Super male vitality by InfoWars Life is so powerful that I only take half the recommended dose. For a limited time, we are offering 15% off Super Male Vitality at InfoWarsLife.com to introduce you to this powerful supplement. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today to secure your Super Male Vitality. InfoWarsLife.com.
Soros put, or that's betting against for new listeners, hits record as billionaires' downside hedge rises by 154% in Q4 to 1.3 bill. Let's just put it to you this way. The big guys are headed for the exits. And I was talking to I'll just say, at a pretty good-sized oil company head just a few days ago I ran into. And I recognized him when he's talking to me, and I was like, oh, I've seen you on the news. Yeah, and he's like, oh, I'll watch your show. I'm here in town. And he's like, oh, no, they're getting ready to bring the stock market down at least 20%. He said, probably more. This bubble's going to be deflating. And I don't know if he has all the answers. The point is that I can walk down the street and run into people that I recognize from CNBC, and they're telling me what they really think. But, I mean, it's all over the news. You see the signs, all these big top people like Faber and Rogers, and the list goes on, the von Mises Institute. I mean, I don't know how long they can pump these bubbles up. And quite frankly, I don't want the bubbles to go down because the bubble's artificial. The globalists get to use it to take over. They get the first use of the money. It creates a consolidated economy. But still, we're riding on the back of it. When it implodes, it's going to be even worse, and they'll just get more power out of that. So that's coming up. But what I wanted to get to right now is an article we posted from GOPthedailydose.com. This is from Lou Dobbs. Admiral, Obama conspired with America's enemies to kidnap Chris Stevens. And, man, I got this from Colonel Schaefer, that this was something that was bouncing around the Pentagon. He couldn't confirm it, but he said that was one of the main things. They knew there was a cover-up and it was staged. They just didn't know exactly what it was. So you can, in any criminal investigation, you can tell when you're not being told the truth and that something stinks. You just don't know till you get deeper or someone confesses, or till you have prima facie evidence, caught red-handed, of exactly what went on. But we know that there was a cover-up and they got a bunch of weapons, and it was Al-Qaeda, and there was a stand-down order for almost 8 hours. So this is a big bombshell. Talk about info bombs. This is it. It's even worse than we previously thought. A retired 4-star admiral is reporting that Barack Obama intentionally conspired with America's enemies to stage a bogus attack and the kidnapping of an American ambassador so he could negotiate the release of the hostages and bolster his mediocre approval ratings just prior to the election. Why does that make sense? Most of the security was ordered off. They were driving out, but there was a double cross. Some of them were killed at highway checkpoints. It was the Al-Qaeda forces put in years before to take over Libya in Benghazi, that western area on the border with Egypt. That's one reason Mubarak had to be taken out. He was like, I'm not going to help Al-Qaeda get arms in Egypt and then overthrow Libya. And so they had to remove him. That all came out. So we know that went on. But it fits into this story because a lot of people were told to get out. That's come out. So they wanted to have just kind of a stage firefight, have him give up, and hand Stevens over. But the two sheep-dipped Navy SEALs, and by sheep-dipped, above Navy SEALs in the CIA, there's many levels above Navy SEALs and Delta Force folks, they came running down and didn't follow the order to stand down. And so they started shooting them from behind, killing scores of them. Some reports are over 100. And so the Arabs went completely wild, and the rest is history. You know what happened. They were going to use the kidnapping also as a cover to get into the 3 warehouses with all the missiles and then claim, oh, that's how they got them. So they have plausible deniability. Here's the admiral talking about that, and I really think this theory is probably what happened. Here it is.
What's questionable is CIA's role and the Director of Naval Intelligence role in the bogus cover-up story of that this was a reaction to a spontaneous mob in a reaction to a video which nobody had seen.